Well, dear listener, we've reached the first year mark of the latest version. I thought it would be fun to go back to my first 6 guests and check in with them. These women shared their stories when I didn't have a finished product yet to share with them. They took a chance with me, sharing their stories about their life journeys and their plans for the future, and I am so grateful to them. Their experiences this past year will sound familiar to many of you. Some are making progress. Others have family issues that may have put their plans on temporary hold, but nobody's giving up. So, how's everyone doing? Let's check in first with Danielle Butin. Danielle started Afya Foundation, a nonprofit in Yonkers, New York, that collects unused medical supplies from hospitals that would otherwise go straight to landfill. Afya receives these supplies in their warehouse, sorts and repacks them, then ships them to hospitals around the world, often in response to natural disasters. Here's Danielle talking about her early days working with hospital staff.
The hospitals we worked with wanted to know that we would show up. I think a lot of people have a lot of good ideas and then they just don't show up and they don't fulfill on what they promised. And I knew, and I continue to, that I'm asking hospitals to do more. It's a lot easier for them to just throw stuff away than it is to invest the time to bag things up, store them, make sure that people know to donate to us. I know I'm asking them for more, but it's worth it. We are not going to throw away good supplies, and people's lives are going to be saved because of it. There was one beautiful moment during the horrible disaster in the Philippines years ago, and I was in a New York City hospital at 5 a.m. training a group of OR nurses in how to recover from the operating room. And all of these expat Philippine nurses came up to me bawling their eyes out, saying, we feel like now we can help home during this horrible disaster. And we've been waiting for a chance to do something with the supplies that we've been seeing thrown away. And it resonates for everybody. It resonates for the donors. It resonates for the recipients. It just makes sense.
Today, Afya Foundation's purpose could not be more vital as they send off supplies to Ukraine. I visited Danielle in her busy warehouse office. Danielle Butin, here we are a year later. Afya was well on its way to being an incredible success last year. Now, here we are in this warehouse space. You have a room full of volunteers sorting medical equipment that's going to go to Ukraine. What is it like being in the eye of the storm right now? This is really incredible what you're able to do.
This is unlike any other disaster we've ever worked on because other disasters have a finite timeline. An event occurs, a natural disaster, even a pandemic has its own lifeline, and then it ends. And this is the first time we are dealing with daily trauma through war, really through terrorism, moment after moment, and there's no reprieve or end in sight. And so I think this is the first time my team and I have had to field calls that are desperate, calls for SOS, for medical and surgical supplies. A nation with a war-torn healthcare system, and the supplies we're being asked for are very frightening supplies. And so there's a gravitas to this response that is different from anything else we've ever managed. And I am grateful for our history and our ability to execute, because we are putting that to mammoth use right now as a team in being able to get as much as we can in the air and into Ukraine. We are focusing on the healthcare system in Ukraine. The other nations bringing in hundreds of thousands of refugees have an enormous set of challenges. But to be consistent with how Afya works, there is a healthcare system managing its own assault of war and trying to deliver care to people who are injured, and we have to help them.
So you're getting supplies from hospitals and clinics here in the New York area. What sort of supplies what requests are you getting for supplies? You're saying that's different than maybe in the past.
We are being asked for amputation surgical kits. We are being asked for chemical protection masks. We are being asked for remedies and treatments for radioactive exposure. I mean, this is big gun horrible set of lists. We are packing more endotrach tubes and setups and suction machines and tubing than we've ever been asked for. The wound care requests are enormous because of the shrapnel and what is happening there on the ground. And so our partner, Greater New York Hospital Association, is an amazing partner of Afya's for years. They did a major outreach with us to the hospitals of New York to get the word out. These are the lists of needs that are coming from Ukraine. The hospitals of New York have been remarkable. They have donated. We have hundreds of pallets of inventory that we are packing now, and this came from New York.
Wow. This is so inspiring. Danielle, I don't want to take you away from anything else. I just wanted to do a check-in with you and a check-in. Who could have predicted this even a month ago, that this would be the situation now?
I agree with you. And I think, and I say this to my team all the time, and I think this is why we have 1,200 new volunteers in just 2 weeks, is the antidote to trauma and terror is to act. We each have to find our way to act. So Afya, we are very blessed and fortunate that we can be the place that delivers aid quickly and fast. We have 40 pallets already in Ukraine of med-surg supplies, and we're going to get another 200 out in the next few days. But that people can come in and give back and help us sort and help us prepare. And all of these volunteers are saying to us, I feel better when I'm here than any other place. And that's because they're doing something around this disaster that they can put their agency to.
And the foresight you had to set this up, 10 years ago? You couldn't build this from the ground up at this moment.
Never.
Here you are. You're poised and ready to go.
Exactly. And there's something to be said about process improving, going after moments of risk and opportunity, because all of these years of experience are being put to use now for people who are going through an absolute hell over there.
I'm so glad you and Afya are at work here in getting things going to Ukraine. And of course, I'll put all that contact information on the website, and I'm already getting photos out and stuff like that. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you.
Amazing work that Danielle and Afya are doing now. If you want to donate to Afya, please go to afyafoundation.org. And Afya is spelled A-F-Y-A. Lucy Filppu is a longtime English teacher at Palo Alto High School in California. Last year, she shared with us about working in a high-performing school district. Lucy also shared with us that she's working with a writers group to start a novel. Lucy also has an entrepreneurial side. She started a writing boot camp for young students entering high school. This is Lucy last year.
I think the beauty of recreating ourselves is following those instincts. So yeah, I'm in a very exciting part of my life. I'm writing a novel, which is why my summer business, I can hardly keep up with all this. I'm learning that putting time into one's art needs to be treated as carefully as any other way of spending time with ourselves. So I am writing a novel that takes place in Kentucky, where our mothers come from, Betsy, and I'm in a writing workshop. And I find at this age and stage in my life, I've written a lot, but my voice, my clarity, my commitment is at a new level. I'm finding the creativity is on. There is no limit. We know lots of writers who find their voice later in life. So I'm excited.
So how's it going? Lucy shared with me that she has a sick family member that is her priority right now.
Well, it's interesting. In my writing group, and I have learned so much in being in a community of writers, all of whom know what is happening with me. I am amazed how many writers who really are published, who went on to make formidable careers for themselves, speak of these roadblocks. And we hear the cliche writer's block, but I'm going to call it life block. I mean, I have real pressing demands on my time right now, and I'm giving myself permission to not go down the beat up road, but more just say, I'm pivoting, the big term we learned from the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I'm grateful for my full-time employment. I take tremendous joy from my students. I'm an all-in teacher. So my bread and butter work that I continue to find great passion in has been as steady while I deal with personal issues in my family. And I think that's really what I want to talk about, is that just because my novel isn't my main priority right now, I'm still making creativity and work a high priority as a way to cope with everything else I have to do in my personal life.
Yeah. So tell me how the business is going. You started a really interesting project called Palo Alto Writing Academy. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Well, my rosters are filling up for the summer. So that business, and I raised my prices substantially. Of course, we have inflation, but I also would share that, I'm worth it. I've been doing this business 12 years. I have great reviews. I'm a long-term tenured English teacher. I know what I'm doing. So I've raised my prices. I've kind of really focused in on a niche group that I want to work with. And that feels really good. I'm kind of setting what I want to do as opposed to, and seeing who wants to come, as opposed to just kind of blending myself in. So I've kind of rebranded a little bit, and I'm very much a boutique writing instructor. I also reject the term tutor. So I've differentiated myself. I am not a tutor. There's plenty of tutors out there. There's plenty of slapdash tutoring places all over the world to help kids, quote, get ahead. That is not what I offer. I am a full-blown instructor. I make my own curriculum. I have my own pedagogy. So I've decided I'm worth it, and my rosters are filling up.
That's fantastic. That's great news. And I've always admired that about you, Lucy. You have that entrepreneurial spirit that got you to a point where in your early life before you were married, you survived as a writer, a freelance writer, and a creative type in New York at a time. Well, it's never easy to do that, right?
Well, I'm finding too. And thank you. I love the entrepreneurial side. That's as creative to me as any writing I ever do. People want my services. So if my issue as I head toward the big 6-0 is how much do I want to work? Because I can see a lot of ways I can expand and pivot my writing business to capture more students, a broader geographic range if I want to stay online for certain demographics. So if anything, this is a high-class problem, I always say. I probably could build this business out so substantially that I would never get much time off, let alone write a novel.
And that's another decision you'll need to make.
That's right. These are wonderful problems to have.
That's great. Lucy Filppu, thank you so much for that wonderful update, and all the best.
Thanks, Betsy. Great to see you.
Thanks for sharing that, Lucy. And we're sending you and your family much love. Chris McMurray had an extraordinary story to share with us. Chris wrote and published a book, Live, Laugh, Fly, about her son Scott's battle with a rare pediatric cancer and death at 22. In truth, the book was a bigger examination of a marriage that hit some rocks, but, contrary to expectations, came back stronger than ever. A big part of Chris's story are the coincidences and signs that they have noticed after Scott's passing, and her confidence that Scott continues to be a part of their lives. And we talked last year of how she must be feeling in the time of COVID.
And if I'm to say I am lucky that he had cancer, it sounds weird to say that, but I am in that we knew and we had that chance to say goodbye. And so I am lucky in that way. Our end versions are the same, of trying to have a life without somebody you love. But the process, I feel I am luckier than people who have gone through a sudden death.
Mm-hmm.
I am, and I acknowledge that. But I also know that in the end process, they are with us. They are with us, and they're watching us, and they're guiding us in a way also. And they want us to talk to them. They want us to remember, and to remember the good.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I laughed after Scott died, and I felt guilty. I felt guilty. How could I laugh? My son is gone. How could I laugh? So that first time that you do laugh and you do find that joy, you have to realize they want you to. Yeah. They want you to. They don't. He would say to me, "You're my biggest worry. You're my biggest worry. I need you to be okay." And they all do. That's what love is. We want them to be okay, and they want us to be okay.
So, Chris, how's it going? Welcome back to the latest version. I'm so glad you could join me today on a little short notice. Thank you very much.
Just thank you for asking.
With you. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. How about with you?
Oh,
congratulations on your year.
Thank you. Yes,
that's a big achievement.
The latest version, a whole year of podcasting. So that's been fun too. That's been fun. Chris, when we talked last time, you had just finished or had just published your book.
That's right.
And tell me how that's going now. What's it been like?
Well, yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, since we spoke, then I probably did like maybe 2 or so other podcasts. And then one of those podcasts offered me and Jean a half-hour show once a month on their podcast. Yeah, so
fantastic.
We're on Word of Mom Radio, and we're usually like the last week of the month. And we talk about Live, Laugh, Fly. The name of the book, name of our podcast is We're an Open Book.
Hold it up more so we can see.
There it is. Live, Laugh, Fly.
Yes.
So what we do is we kind of been going chapter by chapter on it and then discussing it. So like the first, we talked about the lady on the plane and we talked about those feelings. And then people wrote in and asked us questions. So like the second show, we answered those questions about it. And we're talking to other people who are trying to navigate their grief journey.
Wow.
And so, and this time we just went on about when you first meet and you fall in love and everything's wonderful. And then you meet the families. And sometimes it's not such a smooth thing.
Right.
And we talk about that for our next podcast. So, so we're an open book and we talk about everything that is in the book. And it's been exciting.
Oh, that's so much fun. Welcome to the world of podcasting.
Thank you. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, right?
No.
So tell people how they can hear you.
You can go on to Word of Mom Radio and we are called We're an Open Book. And we have 2 episodes out so far.
Oh, that's
2 in the can.
Oh, that's great. That is so much fun. So, I know we've talked before about you're using your book to, to me, the real mission of your book has been showing people that there's life after the tremendous grief that you shared. And at the time we were talking, we were in the middle of COVID. And I think maybe even at the beginning, because good heavens, we're finding the toll of COVID is enormous now.
Yes.
And now we also have the whole Ukraine
it's
invasion.
Been never ending.
It's unrelenting in a way.
Yeah.
How are you finding dealing with all of the feelings that must be going through your head all the time?
It is. It's a really scary time. With children, I still take care of kids every day.
Mhm.
And I look at them like they have gone through more than so many other people in their little lives. And we're not even done with COVID when now, they worry about war and they have said they worry about World War III coming.
Yeah.
So I like to spend time with them and try to just like ease their minds and have them be a kid for the time that they're with me.
Christina McMurray's book, Live, Laugh, Fly, can be found on Amazon. Leela Kokoris Goldstein's life after retirement from a busy corporate and consulting career took an interesting turn. Last year, she told me about her discovery of the art of collage. I didn't know much about collage other than to think, gee, that looks like fun. And my other thought was, Leela's really good at that. My question to her last year was, how far are you going to take this? And I'm wondering, maybe you already answered this, but what role do you see this playing in your life? Is it something you want to develop into more of a, is it something you do to relax, or is it something you're really hoping to expand and become, I don't know, something bigger than that?
I'm going to see what happens. I think that's the best. I don't need to make this a big business. And I'm not sure that's really what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm playing around with it. I'm learning a lot, which is good. And, I just enjoy it. I find it great therapy, especially during the COVID crisis.
Yes.
It was really wonderful to just have a chance to look at, what I've got and start to think about. I've got a journal where I keep ideas and do some experimentation on, what does this medium look like on this type of paper and that type of thing. So there's always something, and certainly for me, starting so late, there's so much to learn that I'm not really sure how this is going to evolve over time in terms of taking over my life or whatever. But it is certainly a big part of my life now, a big part. And I try to, hone it and practice it if I can, if not every day, then, every few days.
Wow.
And I'm very good at, taking one hat off and putting the other hat on. I've been doing that for a long time in different, because of family, because of, elder parents, the whole thing where you say, okay, this has to be my priority now. The rest of it has to be, set aside or not as focused on that part of my life. So, it comes fairly easily to me to just say, okay, I've done my work for the day for the clients that I have. I can't go any further on this project. I'm going to go downstairs and, create something.
That was Leela last year. I had a chance to catch up with her a few days ago and asked her, how's the collage going?
But I've been trying to do more work that's kind of outside my comfort zone. I've been doing some things that are more, hopefully a little bit more abstract, a little bit more surreal. A lot of it's practice. A lot of it isn't really, a finished piece, that I take a long time to create. But I think building up to that. So I've been doing a lot of prompts. In February, there was I think it was a society of collage artists or something in the UK or somewhere where they had what they call Februlage, where, every day there's a prompt. And so I did several of those. I'm in a year-long program with an organization called Collage Lab, which is run by a woman in Texas, a collage artist who is really wonderful. I mean, we meet monthly on Zoom and we discuss our work. And I'm involved in an art trading card program. So that was kind of fun. Artist trading cards, which are like small playing card sized collages. And I did 16 of those, and then they're going to give me that. I sent them all to Kelly, the artist, and she's going to send, she's going to mix them to, so that you get one from each other of the participating artists. So I'm waiting for that package to come, because that'll be really fun.
Oh, what fun.
And I found I really enjoyed doing that, and that forced me to work on a smaller, canvas, as it were. 16 times. So it was very challenging, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm finding I'm doing a lot of different things to strengthen my abilities, I think. And I haven't entered any, calls for artists or anything like that, but I'm moving in that direction, and I'm hoping to do some of that later in the year. I'm also playing around with the idea of creating perhaps a class, either via Zoom or in person. I would love to do it in person, depending on what happens with our situation, which changes from day to day. Where I would go into, a group of coworkers. They could be teachers, they could be, business people or whatever, and maybe do a collage class for people who've never really done it or never even thought about doing it. And just see what comes out of that. I think that would be kind of fun. So I'm playing around with that idea.
You'd make a great teacher of this. And I think because you've been learning recently, that I think that's a great idea. I wish I could take it, but you're in Arizona and I'm in New York.
Yes. Well, you got to come out here sometime, especially when it's cold out.
Yeah, I wish I thought of that this past winter. But what I love about what you're telling me is how it's really something that, thanks to Zoom and all these other digital ways of connecting, it's not just you sitting in your corner making your artwork. You're actually sharing it around the world.
That's true. There's actually in our group, our Collage Lab group, there's a woman who comes into the meetings and from Israel. I think there's a couple from Canada, and there's somebody, I believe, from the UK. So it's really fun, and just getting a sense of what other people are doing and talking about the work, so that we can get a deeper discussion into some people's art, and I find that a lot of fun and really interesting to meet other people, even if it's just virtual.
Thanks, Leela. This is a really inspiring example of finding a new pursuit that can be endlessly interesting and can take you in many different directions. You'll find examples of Leela's work on her episode page at thelatestversionpodcast.com/episodes. Betsy Chappelle shows how you can take an interest or a sideline, in her case, gardening, and turn it into a business by focusing on a niche. In Betsy's case, the niche is container gardening, enhancing the homes of her clients in Lexington, Kentucky with beautiful potted plant arrangements. Last year, she shared her secret to winning over new clients.
And I've learned, I'll go and I'll meet a client, and one of the first, we may walk around the outside of the property, looking at where pots are, and even discussing what color palette. But I try to weasel myself into their house with the question of, what's the view out the window where you're looking most of the time? Which usually isn't out the front window at the front of your house. True. You're usually looking out your kitchen window. And most of the time I'm meeting with the wife or the couple or whatever, but I say, where are you standing when you're doing the dishes? Let's start by focusing on that, because I want you to put your money and my talents where you are going to appreciate it. We'll do the front pots for your guests, but if you can catch them to make it very personal for them, then you've got yourself a good client, and they'll start learning to trust you. And then when you go in, I'm looking out the kitchen window, but I'm also looking around at what's their style, what are their color palettes inside, because the more you can translate that into outside, they're going to be happy and they're not even going to know why. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I do like that color. That is my style.
A year later, her business, Bloom's Designs, is, well, blooming. She's finding new ways to market her business and is building it up with a particular goal in mind.
And then this last spring, I participated in what's called the Bluegrass Antique and Garden Show. Everyone, like the Nashville, New York, these places. We have a pretty good sized one here in Lexington called the Bluegrass Antique and Garden Show. So I really put a lot of time, effort into in collaboration with other gardening people in that. And the I want to say the fallout, the positive effects of that are just beginning to roll in. It's like, oh, I saw this gal at the show and she had beautiful contain. We did a mock-up garden display we brought in literally a flatbed of these pots that I'm just enamored with. And so I got myself deeper into all sorts of projects.
That's great. So you're looking at a very busy spring and summer, I'm guessing.
Yes, which again, I always keep coming back. And the main thing I want to hammer home to those of us that think it's a wonderful idea to start a small business is to get the business aspects of it, whether it's you want to do it or you want to find the people to do it. And I'm getting there. I just, it's just one of those days where I want to go outside and play and not do paperwork.
So do you do all of your own? Accounting, bookkeeping, all that?
Well, at this point, we're set up with a QuickBooks under the jurisdiction of my husband, which is not where we want to be. It's not where we want to be come the 1st of April. So we're rapidly moving things over to an accountant who will just, I will just be my accountant's employee is what I want to be. And we're getting there.
But you need to take care of the back office stuff so that you can automate that. Yeah, make that as automatic as possible so you can be out there doing the things you're best at and that you love.
Exactly. And it's more and more, this whole process has reinforced to do some self-discovery, know what are your best qualities that you bring to whatever the endeavor is, and just outsource everything that is not up your alley.
Great advice, Betsy. Great advice. So tell us again how we can access your gorgeous photos on Instagram. You're under what?
Yes, Instagram. Let me turn this off here. Instagram is the only place you'll find me, and it's blooms.design. And that's where you find me. I've also discovered and very much tapped into, there is a national organization of container gardeners. And I have to laugh every time I say it, but we are indeed a true niche business. I mean, we're bona fide. I pay membership. I pay due memberships to this organization. Mostly women, for sure, and incredibly supportive. We've done Zoom workshops on how to do your finances, Zoom workshops on creative ideas. And again, that has helped me realize my strengths, my weaknesses, and not to feel like you have to do it all yourself.
Fantastic advice from a blooming designer who is growing. Think of all the garden analogies we can bring into this.
Exactly. So I will continue to carry on. I've even had some interest in other businesses who might want to absorb Blooms. Once I can show some paperwork that it is a business worth looking at seriously, but I need to keep it my own for another year or two and see this thing all the way to where I want to take it.
Fantastic. All the best, Betsy. It's great to touch base with you and keep growing.
Or I will, I will, along with this. Thank
Along
you.
with this. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Finally, my first interview last year was with Laura Lavi, an old friend who had a promising career as an Americana singer-songwriter, but put a lot of that aside to concentrate on her law practice and, more recently, to help manage the career of her very talented son, Cameron Lavi Jones, and his band, King Youngblood. When we talked last year, Laura had just released a single, a cover of Joni Mitchell's The River, with plans to release an album of her own work. Here's what she had to say last year to others who are looking to reinvent themselves.
I think that the advice that I would give is to look deeply into what is it that, as corny as this sounds, what is it that makes you authentic? And what is it that's holding you back from allowing that authenticity? Usually it's fear. Usually it's competing with ghosts. Usually it's some excuse you gave all through all those years of why you didn't do it. And if you come to the conclusion that you didn't do it for very good reasons, A, you had to feed your family, or B, you loved it but you didn't love it that much, or whatever it is, then that's okay too. But if you find yourself feeling compelled to do what you meant to do, whether it's start a new business, which certainly during COVID people are doing right and left these days, right. Or start painting or writing or whatever it is, the world is your oyster, because the digital distribution world has allowed us an easier way to take expression and convey it to others. So you don't need to worry about a grand scale. You do need to worry about whether or not you're actually serious or not. And I do believe that no matter what age you are, if you're going to take on something that you actually want other people to pay attention to, you have to do it with intent. And for me, the hardest thing for me is everybody else's agendas get in the way. And I love them all and I want them to succeed. And that's where I feel like I have to fight the feeling of being left on the volcano.
When I caught up with Laura earlier this month, she was going to perform live in Seattle for the first time in many moons, sharing the stage with her son's band. She was generous enough to record these greetings on the street outside the venue and shared this original song.
Hey, it's Laura from high school. Laura, it's great to see you, and it's great to know that you're getting back into performing, and I'm so excited for you. This is a big night, and I appreciate you making time for me.
Oh, so we're out on the street. I'm here with my good friend Jeff, he and I wrote a song called Lost and Found, and we're gonna guest on the show tonight, and we haven't played it in a while, so you're gonna hear us do it without my voice warmed up and Jeff having practiced too much. But then it's a good song because it's really about finding yourself, losing yourself, wishing you could find all the things you lost. Anyway, it goes with your podcast pretty good. So we're dedicating you, Betsy, for all your perseverance as you reinvent yourself, your show, and all that good stuff. Okay, here we go.
Okay, great. Take it away.
Wanna break down, want you to know what it's like to nearly lose me before it's too late, and I lose myself in you. Get back on that horse, even though you know you don't know how to ride. Over and over again, you lie to yourself. Temptation takes us down such a deep, dark hole to feel from someone else what it needs to make us whole.
So, dear listener, this brings us to the end of the latest version. As you know, the latest version was never meant to be my final version. I'm taking a break and will be back with a rebranded show called Project Reinvention with Betsy Bush. This new podcast will take a wider view of reinvention with a wider range of guests. After all, who doesn't want to reinvent themselves? This feed will be updated, so you won't have to go looking for it. Just stay tuned. I want to thank everyone at Gotham Podcast Studios, especially Raul Hernandez, my producer throughout this year, Brianna Peters, and Autumn Foster. And thank you for listening. I'm Betsy Bush, and this is my latest version.